Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak again. In this video I'm going to be talking about the tank, what I'm going to be doing with the tank, and how I'm going to be setting it up. So that's coming up next in this video. Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be talking about the tank. When I set up this tank, if you watched my last video, I had some good comments. I had one comment that was kind of strange, is the person made a comment that I gave you a thumbs down because you spent 21 minutes talking about a stand. Well, apparently the individual didn't watch the entire video, because the entire video did explain that these next few videos are going to all be about setting this up and explaining the whole process of setting this up. So you, the hobbyist, can see exactly how I'm going to set it up, what I'm going to use, how I'm going to do it, and use materials that you more readily use instead of using a lot of expensive materials. So if you would have watched the entire video, then you would have found out that this is only the beginning of several videos. Anyhow, in this video, yeah, there was another comment that a lot of people thanked me. They said, hey, I'm thinking about buying a new tank, and yes, I'm getting one for the holidays, or I'm thinking about getting a new tank. And one question that a lot of newbie people ask when it comes to aquariums that I think it's kind of interesting is, what kind of tank should I get? I would like to have a large tank, and what kind should I get? And I'd like to get something bigger than a 20-gallon or 29-gallon or 30-gallon. And it always comes up with either a 40-gallon or 55-gallon. And most of us have, when we started in the hobby and first got a large tank, most of us got a 55-gallon. And I would suggest myself to get a 40-gallon breeder like this. And I'm going to tell you why versus a 55. First of all, 55 is very narrow. It's about 12 inches. So you have a very narrow aquarium. And they look good, but the trouble is you're going to learn very quickly after you buy it that 12 inches of depth just is not enough. And if I had to sacrifice depth versus height, I would sacrifice height. And because of your landscaping, 18 inches is far, far better than the 12 inches that you get in a 55-gallon. Now, this is just through what I've seen. And plus the fact that little bit of height more of the 55 means the reaching in is going to be a little harder. Now, I know you're talking 15 gallons less, but the next step from that would be, instead of a 55, going to a 75, which is going to be 48 inches long by 18 inches wide. Trust me, instead of spending your money several times, spending your money once is the best, and you're going to soon learn that 18-inch depth really gives you a lot of options for landscaping and aquarium versus 12 inches. And I always ran into problems with a 55-gallon tank or smaller tanks about aquascaping, giving you that 3D effect, layering effect. 12-inch tank, you can't get that layering effect that you can get with an 18, and a 24 is even better. But since we're trying to do things more of what everybody would do, if someone were to ask me, what tank should I get? I would say either you get a 40 because of the depth, or a 75, once again because of the 18-inch depth. Gives you better aquascaping, better depth of field into the tank than 12 inches. You're only talking like this. And then by the time you get a rock in there, sometimes things are getting so close to the glass, you'll soon learn that you dislike that 55-gallon tank, that you won't you'll be dissatisfied with that depth that you're lost about trying to put plants in it and stuff like that, where that would just be my suggestion. Either get a 75 or a 40 breeder, only because of the fact it has the depth you want. There's also another thing to think about. When I set up the tank in the last video, which I didn't tell you, which I probably should have told you, that the keeping things level. Now I put, as you know, foam board down, and I showed you how I cut it and everything else. But there is also, they give you these little pads that you can put down underneath the aquarium. They're very thin, and these stands that you get are not perfectly flat to be putting the aquarium directly on the stand. Therefore, they give you these little pads. The little pads, though, to me, they're too thin, and they're not going to stop the tank from having pressure points. So another thing I was thinking, you could buy pads like this. You can buy, in the hardware store, you can buy a pad like this. You can buy pads like this. You know, they go underneath chairs and stuff like that. I would rather go to a hardware store and buy these and place them along the bottom, because they're thicker than the pads they give you, and they will allow the tank to settle in. Because the problem is, if that tank is just twisted a little bit, even 30 to 60 thousandths, something you won't see, and it can't settle in because of the unevenness of the stands, you're going to constantly have that pressure that will make the side of the tank leak, or the bottom, wherever the weakest point is. Another thing you have to remember, that the pressure of water against aquarium glass remains equal, no matter if you, so if, let's say if this is 16 inches tall, this aquarium here, it doesn't matter if you had a 16-inch tall pond, let's say 20 foot by 20 foot, the pressure against this glass in this aquarium is the same if you had a pond that was 20 foot by 20 foot and only 16 inches tall. The pressure remains the same. It's equal to no matter how big you have. So because that pressure never changes when you put water in a tank like that, that's pushing against the sides. It doesn't matter how big your aquarium is or how big your pond is. It's always equal. So you have to remember that. That's a lot of pressure. And if the aquarium isn't quite even, in the future you could wind up with a crack, because most of the time the silicone that they use in these aquariums here, it's good enough. I've had silicone like this, even inexpensive silicone. And think about it, was silicone as good 40 years ago or 30 years ago as it is at the newer silicones today? And those tanks lasted forever. Okay, so some people say, well, they use a cheaper silicone. That's a hype. You know, this tank should last easily 10 years. Easily should last 10 years, as long as you have it set correctly. You should have no problems with the silicone giving out on these tanks. Like I said, before it was all glass aquarium we would buy. There was other manufacturers out there. Another thing I did to the tank, I put silicone at the very bottom of this edge, all the way around the tank. This is an old trick we did for our saltwater tanks. Remember, all tanks used to be just about like this, whether you had saltwater back in the 70s, 80s. So putting silicone along the bottom edge of the aquarium is going to stop you from getting salt creep or hard water migrating on the sides. Because you think this won't happen. Yeah, it does happen, because eventually through capillary action or through just osmosis, the water will start creeping if you have hard water, and you'll start getting a hard water deposit coming out of the side of the aquarium, and you'll be constantly cleaning. As the aquarium gets older, you'll notice that you'll have a crustiness on the bottom here. So one thing you want to do when you get an aquarium like this is put some silicone, rub it with your finger, put it down. I'll show you a picture of it, and make sure you seal the very top so you don't get any hard water creep or salt creep coming around the edge here, because these edges could be open and allow that to happen, and you'll prevent any of that from happening. So cosmetically down the years, it's always going to look like it did when it was brand new, without that hard water crustiness coming or salt creep. Even people don't even think about it, that salt creep. Well, we don't have to worry about that in a freshwater system. No, you do, because a lot of freshwater systems are brackish water. You're going to be putting salt in there. The salt will start creeping and coming out for a brackish water. A lot of your puffers and stuff like that take brackish water. Mollies take brackish water. They live better in brackish water than they do complete fresh water, and that will start a salt creep. And there's nothing worse than having that come and you're constantly cleaning it, but it gets underneath the rim. Okay, so enough about that. So I would, if you don't want to make a pad like I did, you can always use furniture pads. They're thicker, and these will cushion the tank itself. So this tank is going to be set up. I'm going to use the same under gravel filter plates I bought for the last one. This tank will take 20 plates, in case you're thinking about it and you thought about the plates that I used in my 90. If you watch that, the black plates, they all snap together. This aquarium would take about 20 plates. So they have a package of 20 for $27. I think you can buy the package from Amazon. And so you know how many of those, if you want to use the same thing. Those are about 1 inch high. I know because people have used the same plates I have, because that Chris that I showed you pictures of his tank, he uses the exact same plates as I do. And then all you have to do is get hot glue to put a mesh on it if you want, or any siding pieces, which I already have, which I'll be showing you. Just use a hot glue gun to hold all that stuff together. It's very easy to do. The glue gun works very good out, but I'll be showing you that. So that's one thing I'm going to do. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a small gravel with sand, just like everybody does. They like sand. And instead of, I have a bag coming in of an aqua soil, not Fluval, but a different maker, 10-pound bag coming in. And this is I would rather use the aqua soil than I would dirt myself, because dirt is just too rich for the aquarium to actually use dirt. Though a lot of people are using it, I prefer not to. So I'm going to use a little bit of aqua soil, the laterite. I'm going to put a little bit of kitty litter. Then I'm going to put the sand and everything down there, so you can see exactly how I'm doing it. But everything's going to be more on the less expensive side than filling the whole thing full of fluval stratum like I did. And each bag costs you, $30 a bag, and you need, let's say, 3-4 bags. I just bought one bag of 10-pound soil, and then that will suffice to feed plants and stuff so they can get a hold. Another thing I'm going to do with this particular aquarium is I'm going to use something called what they call miniature or pygmy water lilies. Now, for those of you who have ponds, or for those of you who have little pots, what they call water gardens on your patio, these plants are very popular. These pygmy water lilies, or these miniature water lilies, they're very popular for pots. Okay, and since this Lanai faces, I'm going to say it faces north. So we get a little bit of sun as the sun starts coming up. Okay, and then we don't get any sun, because now the sun's on this side. So this gets shade. It doesn't get direct sunlight in this Lanai. We purposely bought the house for that purpose, because in Florida they said you don't want your Lanai facing the sun, because you'll never use it. It'll be way too hot. So when we bought the house, it was facing the right direction. So that's why we bought it, and that's why it's going here. Because this is going to be viewed from both sides, inside the house and outside here, I'm going to have to aquascape it in such a way that basically will have center aquascaping, and I'm going to put a miniature water lily on both sides. And miniature water lilies do flower, and they take a lot of light. So I will put a light strip up. We'll see how that works. If that doesn't work, I got other things to do. And I'll probably have the lights on a lot longer in this particular aquarium, because I'll probably have to have the lights on for at least 10 hours versus 6, or maybe 12 hours versus 6. So it gets quite a lot of light, because of the plants we're using require a lot of light, but they do grow in semi-shade. I have grown these, what they call pygmy or miniature water lilies. And the thing about it, they get a little flower about this big on them. Beautiful flowers. They're hardy water lilies, and they get beautiful little flowers, but they will cover the top of the tank. But because I'm using a bubbler, which will add oxygen, I'm using a skimmer, I'm not worried about the oxygen level going down, even with the goldfish, because I've done this thousands of times. So there's no worry about it. But it's an option for people out there. Let's say you have a tank like this and you want to set it up, you're going to have an open top. Why not use it something a little different than what they sell in your normal store as your typical lotus and things like that? Because actually, if you do have a plant like these miniature water lilies that grow, it keeps the goldfish calm, and they like to eat the algae, anything that starts growing on the plant stems, on the bottom. Goldfish love that. It keeps them so they don't wind up getting swim bladder. Like I said, I can't believe that I had ranchus outside going through Chicago winters of 30 below zero. And every spring they came back up, they spawned, and they went about their business. And I never fed them. They just ate bugs, worms, anything. Although once in a while I gave them some food. I mean, that's not even once a week, you know. And they live for a very long time. So you can create the same environment inside an aquarium. There's no reason. And in fact, I'll show you some pictures that I took of lighting that you can buy that's reasonably priced, that you can actually, very bright, like 200 watt or 400 watt lighting that costs nothing compared to the lighting that we buy for our hobby. I mean, a fraction of the cost. I'll show you these. You'll be able to see them. These lighting systems. You get them off Amazon. They're like 200 watt, 400 watt if you need something very, very bright without going through the LED lights that they sell for the hobby. Remember, if we're growing plants here like duckweed or whatever on the top, basically they require very bright light to exist. That's how we used to use our metal halides, 400 watt metal halides, because they were so bright that they can actually keep plants like water lettuce, water hyacinth alive because they were so bright. And because these plants are going to be in here, another thing is I'm going to try the fluval, but you put it on full spectrum. You don't need to cut down the spectrum. You don't need to cut down the blues and reds like you would a normal plant tank. You would beef everything up to 100% and let it go at 100%. Your lighting system. I'll get more into that as time comes. So I'm going to show you how to set it up. I'm going to walk you through anything. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. You've got to understand I get hundreds of emails a day. Literally, I get hundreds. And it's hard for me sometimes to answer every question out there to help you guys out. But if you try to subscribe, and I will do my best as a subscriber to my channel to answer your questions and to help you carry along so you can be successful. But once this thing starts growing, I think all of you, we're going to try to have plants growing out. We're going to try to have water, just like you would if you had a pot sitting outside in your patio, which if you're up north, that only lasts, how long? For the summer. And now at this time of the year, since October's coming up north, it's already starting to get cold. Where here, it's still warm. Okay, so I'm going to show you, I'm even going to use a bottle of API bacteria culture. And I'll show you how to use it. I don't approve of these, but I'm showing you so you can follow my instructions, so it will help you inoculate the system, help it. I know the bacteria that's in there, but some of that bacteria will help get into the substrate, into your canister, into the BCB bags, into the anoxic filter, and some of those heterotrophic bacteria will start growing, and you'll get that dimorphic bacteria that we're looking for, the Factutative bacteria that we're looking for. I do want to make it clear, though, remember, this is an aerobic system. It's not an anaerobic system. It's an aerobic system. So we are using oxygen, but at low levels and at high levels. We're using the whole spectrum of oxygen, but we're trying to stay away from as much as the anaerobic as we possibly can. That's why we're making the plenum, and that's why we're doing everything the way we want. So some people I know think that this is an anaerobic system. No, it is not. It is an aerobic system, but we are using different oxygen levels to achieve the full nitrogen cycle. So I think for those of you who want to make an aquarium in your homes, inside, and a lot of people now have open top aquariums, some of you don't. This may be something a little different that you may want to try. Using, thinking out of the box, I guess. Using aquatic plants that will change, that are used in water gardens. Why can't you use them in a tank? There's no reason you can't. And that's what I'm going to do here, because it's warm enough here to use that. Because I'm going to use other plants like anacris and hornworth and stuff like that, so the goldfish can eat. Because basically I want this to be self-maintaining aquarium where I'm not doing a lot of work, not a lot of upkeep, and not a lot of water changes. Because this is definitely something where I don't want to be doing a water change every week. Water changes may only be done once a month, maybe once every 6 months. And I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do this and achieve this with the plants I'm going to use. So if you're, I think it's going to be interesting because it's going to be more of a level of what people can afford and not buying, if you know what I mean. Some of these aquariums that cost, $1,300, $2,000, extreme, a lot of money. And I'm not going to be using a sump. I am going to be using the canister filter because I want it to be protected, and it's going to be outside, which I've already shown you how I stack up the canister filter. And that filter is probably going to run for months and months before it ever gets changed. Okay, that's how I'm designing this. So for those people out there who live in countries where we can't do all these water changes, you are now going to learn how to make a system with nice goldfish that are going to be high polluters and how to maintain them in such a small space and still make them happy and live a long life without getting sick. And I think a lot of people want that. They want to hear that, yeah, I don't want it. I can't afford to do the water changes. Or in my country, water is a luxury. So they can't be doing all the water changes. So I'll get in that. Everything's coming in. A lot of my stuff is coming in today. I'll show you how I make the plenum. And I wanted to make this video to let you know that these videos are going to go step by step. It isn't just a video I did of a stand and the wording I use is wrong, because this is going to be part 2, there's going to be part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6, because I want to get these videos done before the holidays come for you, so you can start getting your stuff all lined up. because I know you're going to want to. And I know they sell a lot of aquariums during the holidays, so I want to get these videos done for you so you can get all your stuff together and start buying it little by little so it's not a financial burden on you. That's why I'm doing this, because we have that flexibility of using an oxyfiltration system, and that's what I want. And I think that's what you want. Whether you use tropical fish, the only difference between this tank, how I'm going to make it, and it will be, do you put a heater in it or don't put a heater in it? We're in Florida. If I use goldfish, fine. If I use paradise fish, I don't have to put a heater in it, because paradise fish, they don't need heat either. A lot of tropical fish are going to need a heater, even in Florida, because it does get chilly. But as long as it stays above 50 degrees, goldfish will still continue eating, and usually it will. So anyhow, that's enough for this video. Next video is going to be probably Plenum, the black, like I did. I'm going to make it. I'm going to use the same as I did in my other video. And I'm going to use the same kind of bubble, the little cheap Lee's 3/8 tube bubbler, to make sure I get oxygen, but I don't want to move too much water in such a big tank underneath this plant. So until next time, happy fishing. Thank you for watching.